He's not your child. He never was. Lily Compsist, after 12 years, laughing at my shock. You were just the better provider, her mother, Margaret, added. I stayed silent, just updated my will that night, when the DNA test results arrived in my LAWYERS letter. Lily's 53, missed calls told me everything. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much! Now, let's start the video. Okay, so I'm finally ready to share this absolute cluster that's been my life for the past year. Not sure if this is the right place to post, but I need to get this off my chest. Maybe it'll help someone else who's been screwed over like I was. I always thought I had a pretty decent life going nothing fancy, just normal, everyday stuff, you know? Married my high school sweetheart, Lily, right after college. Yeah, I know, classic move. Landed an okay job in finance that pays the bills without working me to death. Bought a starter home in a decent neighborhood, where you don't have to worry about your packages getting stolen. Living that average American life and pretty happy with it. We had our son Ethan about 2 years into the marriage. Holy hell. I'll never forget that day, best moment of my entire life. Hands down. Little dude came out screaming his head off, all red-faced and mad at the world, and I just stood there crying like a complete idiot. The nurses were laughing at me, but I didn't care. Lily never let me live it down either. Never seen such a tough guy turn into such a puddle, she'd say whenever she told the story at family gatherings. Looking at him in that little hospital blanket, I swore I'd always protect him, give him a better life than I had, be there for every moment, unlike my own dad who took off when I was 9. All that sappy new parents' promise. Fast forward 12 years, pretty standard life. Work, soccer practice, video games with the kid, barbecues on weekends. Oh, and my mother-in-law, Margaret, moved in with us after her divorce 3 years ago. Not ideal having your mother-in-law all up in your business 24/7, but whatever. She helped with the kids sometimes, and Lily wanted to be there for her mom, so I just dealt with it. Looking back, Margaret always had this weird vibe around me. Would make these little comments now and then about Ethan not looking like me. He's got your wife's eyes, but I don't see much of you in there, she'd say at family dinners, then laugh like she'd said something hilarious. I'd just brush it off. Kid has Lily's eyes, her nose, her hair color, but I always figured he'd grow into my features eventually. Some kids are late bloomers with that stuff, right? Lily would get weirdly defensive whenever anyone brought it up, though. Would jump in with, he's got his dad's personality, though, or he laughs just like his dad. Never thought much about it at the time. Work was fine, not setting the world on fire or anything, but I was moving up slowly. Health insurance was solid, which turned out to be more important than I ever could have imagined. Life was just running along on autopilot until everything went completely nuclear. And man, you never see this kind of thing coming. First sign something was wrong, Ethan started getting really tired all the time, like couldn't get through a school day tired. I figured it was just puberty hitting him, or maybe too many late nights playing Fortnite. His teacher called us in for a meeting because he kept falling asleep in class. We grounded him from video games, made him go to bed earlier, the usual parent stuff. Then came the bruises, big ones that wouldn't go away, showing up for no reason. Kid plays soccer, so we thought maybe he was just being rougher during practice and not telling us. But when he got a nosebleed during dinner that took 30 minutes to stop, Lily finally took him to the doctor. That was the beginning of the end of life as I knew it. They did some blood tests, then more tests, then referred us to a specialist. I took a day off work to go with them to that appointment. The specialist had that serious doctor face that tells you bad news is coming before they even open their mouth. Leukemia. My 12-year-old kid had leukemia. I can't even describe what that moment feels like. It's like the floor disappears and you're just falling. Your brain keeps saying, "This can't be happening," on repeat while the doctor keeps talking about white blood cell counts and treatment protocols and survival rates. Lily completely lost it, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. I went robot mode, taking notes, asking questions, trying to understand everything they were saying because someone had to keep it together. The specialist laid it out: chemo would start immediately. But given the progression and type, Ethan would likely need a bone marrow transplant. Family members are usually the best match, especially parents, so they'd test me first since I'm his dad. We told Ethan together that night, tried to be positive, told him he was going to kick cancer's ass, that the doctors were really good, that we'd be with him every step. He was scared but tried to act tough. Asked if he'd lose his hair. Asked if he could still play video games in the hospital. Kids are amazing, man, facing the scariest thing imaginable and worried about their Minecraft worlds. The next day, I went in for testing to see if I could be his donor. Simple procedure, just a cheek swab and some blood work. The nurse said they'd rush the analysis given the urgency of his condition. "We'll know in 48 hours if you're a match," she said. I remember thinking, of course I'll be a match. I'm his dad. 2 days later, the doctor called me back in alone this time. No Lily, no Ethan, just me sitting in this sterile office while he looked at me with this weird expression. "We need to test other family members," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Your markers aren't even remotely close to his." I didn't get it at first. "What do you mean? Can't you use just part of my marrow or something?" The doctor got this uncomfortable look. "Sir, in these situations, well, sometimes there's a medical explanation, but sometimes there's a paternity issue." The room started spinning. "Are you saying he's not my son?" "I'm saying we need to test other family members urgently. Your son's condition is progressing faster than we'd like." I sat in my car for an hour after that, just staring at nothing, trying to make sense of what he was suggesting. There had to be some mistake, a lab error. Something. My phone was blowing up with texts from Lily asking what the doctor said. If I'm a match? When I'm coming home? I couldn't even look at them without wanting to puke. I finally managed to drive home, hands shaking the whole time, almost ran a red light because my brain was just completely fried. Walked through the door and found Lily and Margaret sitting at the kitchen table, looking tense as hell. They shut up the second I walked in, real subtle. "Why aren't I a match for my son?" I asked, my voice shaking so bad I could barely get the words out. Lily started crying immediately, classic move she always pulls when she's caught in a lie, tears on demand. Margaret just stared at me, then had the nerve to roll her eyes like I was being dramatic. "Tell him," she said to Lily. "He was going to find out eventually." I slammed my hand on the table, probably scared the hell out of them because I've never been the type to lose my temper. "Tell me what?" "My son is dying and needs a bone marrow donor. Why am I not a match?" Margaret looked me dead in the eyes, cold as ice. "Because he's not your child. He never was." Just like that, no sugarcoating, no apology, just dropped that nuke on my life like she was telling me we're out of coffee. The room went dead silent except for Lily's fake sobbing. I felt like someone was sitting on my chest, couldn't breathe right. "What the hell are you talking about?" I finally managed to say. Margaret shrugged, like we were discussing a movie plot or something trivial. "She was still seeing her ex when you two got engaged. Got pregnant. We figured you were the better option, stable job, good benefits. Her ex was a total loser who couldn't keep employment for more than a few months." Lily finally spoke up, wiping her tears. "I was going to tell you eventually." "Eventually? It's been 12 years. I was shouting now, never shouted like that in my life. "Our son has leukemia. He needs a match now." "Well, now you know," Margaret said. "We'll need to contact his real father." Something in me just snapped when she said real father. I'd been there for every fever, every nightmare, every school project, every soccer game, every moment of his life. I was his real father. The fact that some other dude's DNA was in him didn't change the past 12 years. Get out, I said, suddenly deadly calm, scary calm. What? Lily asked, looking genuinely shocked, like she thought I'd just accept this and move on. Both of you, get out of my house now. Pack a bag and leave. You can stay in a hotel. You can't just kick us out, Margaret started, with that entitled tone she always uses. Watch me. You've got 30 minutes. And while you're packing, write down the contact info for your ex. My son needs a donor. They tried arguing, but I just walked away, went to the backyard, and called my lawyer. Explained everything. Poor dude probably thought I was having a mental breakdown. Stay calm, he said. Document everything. Don't leave the house under any circumstances they leave, not you. He promised to start the divorce paperwork immediately and told me to forward any medical records proving what happened. Said I needed to focus on Ethan's treatment, and he'd handle the legal storm. Lily came out to the yard, eyes all puffy, trying to play the victim. You're really throwing away our family now, when our son needs us both? I just stared at her. Did you ever love me? Or was I just a walking ATM this whole time? Of course I loved you. I still do. This doesn't change anything between us. Unreal. Doesn't change anything? You've been lying to me since day one. Everything about our life together is a lie. Not everything, she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away like she was covered in acid. Does he know? I asked. Does our son know I'm not his biological father? No, God, no. And there's no reason for him to find out. This can stay between us. I actually laughed. Stay between us? The doctors need his biological father's information now. He needs a bone marrow transplant, or did you forget our son has cancer because you're so busy trying to cover your own ass? That shut her up. She wrote down her ex's name and last known contact information. Apparently they hadn't talked in years, but Margaret had kept tabs on him through mutual friends because, of course she did. I called the hospital right away and gave them the information. They said they'd try to locate the guy ASAP. An hour later, Lily and Margaret were gone. They tried to take a bunch of valuable stuff, but I told them I'd already photographed everything in the house, and anything missing would be reported stolen. Margaret tried to take some antique jewelry that belonged to my mom, the absolute nerve of these people. Seriously, I spent that night sitting in Ethan's room while he slept, just watching him breathe. He looked so small and pale already from the first round of chemo. I kept thinking about all the moments from his life, all those memories that made him my son, regardless of DNA. The next morning was hell. Had to take him to his hospital appointment for more tests. He asked where his mom was. She had to take care of some stuff with Grandma, I said, hating that I had to lie to him. She'll visit you at the hospital later. The doctors took more blood, ran more tests. His oncologist pulled me aside to say his numbers weren't good. The cancer was aggressive. We needed to find a donor match as soon as possible or start looking at more experimental treatments. I broke down in the hospital bathroom, only time I've cried through this whole mess. Punched the wall so hard I fractured a knuckle, which was stupid because Ethan needed me in one piece. When I got back to his room, there was a text from Lily asking if she could come see him. I said yes because, despite everything, he needed his mom. Told her not to bring Margaret and not to talk to me. She showed up looking like hell, which gave me a tiny bit of satisfaction. Didn't speak to me, just went straight to Ethan and acted like Supermom brought his favorite comics and some new video game. I left them alone and went to talk to the doctors about next steps. The hospital had a whole team working to locate the biological father through Lily's hesitant cooperation. Turns out she'd been keeping tabs on him all these years just in case, which made me wonder if she'd ever actually cut contact with him at all. I also wondered how many other lies she'd told me over the years. If she could lie about something this huge, what else was fake? Our entire relationship? Every moment I thought we were happy? That night, I couldn't sleep, kept replaying every memory, trying to spot the signs I missed. Times she was weird about him not looking like me, Times she got defensive about paternity jokes from friends and her mom, all those snide little comments over the years suddenly made sense. The betrayal was so complete, so thorough, I couldn't even process it. Didn't know who I was anymore if I wasn't this kid's dad. But then I'd remember I am his dad. Maybe not biologically, but in every way that actually matters. The next morning, they found him the biological father. Hospital called to say they'd made contact, and he was willing to come in for testing immediately. He showed up at the hospital that afternoon. I was sitting in Ethan's room while he was sleeping off his latest round of meds. Nurse came in and said someone wanted to talk to me in the consultation room. I figured it was another doctor or something, but it was him. Not what I expected at all. In my head, I'd built this guy up to be some kind of player who'd seduced my wife, maybe taller than me, better looking, whatever. But he was just normal average height, starting to go bald, dad bod. Looked scared shitless, honestly. "I'm Ryan," he said, holding out his hand. I didn't take it. "You're the biological father," I said, not a question. He nodded, looking like he might puke. "I had no idea." "None?" She told me she miscarried. Well, that was a twist I didn't see coming. "What?" "Yeah, we dated in college, broke up, then hooked up one last time before she got serious with you. She called a few weeks later to say she was pregnant but lost the baby. I never questioned it. Great, so she'd lied to everyone. Fan-fucking-tastic human being, my wife. So you never knew you had a son?" I asked, still trying to process this new information. "No, I swear to God, I would have been there if I knew." "I wouldn't have," he trailed off, obviously uncomfortable. "Wouldn't have what?" "Let another man raise your kid thinking it was his," he finished quietly. We sat in silence for a minute. Two guys whose lives got completely fucked by the same woman. "I've got 2 other kids now," he said finally. "Married, decent job." I didn't care about his life story, but I needed to know one thing. "Are you a match for the bone marrow?" "They're testing me now. Should know soon." He hesitated. Can I see him?" Every part of me wanted to say no, this stranger had no right to my son. But that wasn't fair to Ethan, who needed every possible chance at survival. "Not yet," I said. "He doesn't know about any of this. He's dealing with enough right now." Ryan nodded. "I understand. I just want to help whatever he needs." The doctor came in then with the preliminary results. Ryan was potentially a match. They needed to do more specific testing, but it looked promising. First piece of good news in this whole nightmare. I left them to discuss the medical stuff and went back to Ethan's room. He was awake now, tubes everywhere, skin pale as paper. "Where'd you go, Dad?" he asked, voice all raspy. Dad, that word hit different now, but it was still true, wasn't it? "Just talking to the doctors, buddy." "How you feeling?" "Like crap," he said, trying to smile. "Where's Mom?" I'd been dreading that question. "She'll be by later." Another lie to protect him. The lies were piling up, but these ones at least were to shield him, not for selfish reasons. That day, I met with my lawyer who'd come to the hospital. He had me sign a stack of papers: divorce filing, emergency custody order, DNA test request for legal purposes, asset protection documents. "What about his biological father?" I asked. "What rights does he have?" "That's complicated," my lawyer said. "Given the circumstances and the length of time you've been the child's father, you have a strong case for maintaining primary custody. But biologically, he has rights too if he wants to pursue them." One more thing to worry about. But first, we had to get Ethan through this. That night, I slept in the chair by Ethan's bed. Hospital staff brought me a blanket and pillow. Around 3:00 a.m., Ethan woke up. Sick nurses rushed in. More meds, more tests. Dawn was breaking by the time he fell back asleep. My phone had been blowing up all night. Texts from Lily, from Margaret, from friends who'd obviously heard some version of what was happening. I ignored them all. Ryan came back in the morning for more testing. We passed each other in the hallway. Awkward nod. "What do you say to the guy who unknowingly fathered the child you've raised for 12 years? The doctor caught me getting coffee in the family room. "Good news," he said. Ryan is a match, one of the best matches we could hope for. Relief hit me so hard. I had to sit down. So what happens now? We'll prep both of them for the procedure. There's some paperwork, some more tests, but we can move quickly given the urgency of your son's condition. For the first time in days, I felt something like hope. Ethan had a chance, that's all that mattered right now. But the nightmare was far from over. Margaret showed up that afternoon, walked right into Ethan's room like she owned the place. I was in the bathroom and came out to find her sitting by his bed, filling his head with God knows what. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice controlled for Ethan's sake. "Visiting my grandson," she said, defiant as ever. "You can't keep me away from him." "Dad, why is Grandma staying at a hotel?" Ethan asked, looking confused. "And Mom too? What's going on?" I shot Margaret a look that would have killed her if that was possible. "Let's talk outside," I told her. Once in the hallway, I let her have it. "You have some nerve showing up here. He's my grandson." "I have every right. You have no rights. You're the one who encouraged your daughter to lie to me for 12 years. You're the architect of this whole disaster." She puffed up like an angry cat. "You should be grateful. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even have him in your life." "Grateful? For being lied to? For raising another man's child without my knowledge or consent? For finding out during a medical crisis that could kill him?" A nurse approached, looking concerned. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to keep your voice down." I took a deep breath. "Sorry. This person was just leaving." "I most certainly am not," Margaret protested. "Yes, you are," I said firmly, "or I'm calling security." "Your choice." She left, but not before promising this wasn't over. Back in Ethan's room, he was full of questions I couldn't answer yet. "Why is everyone fighting? Are you and Mom getting divorced?" The innocent questions nearly broke me. How do you explain to a 12-year-old that his entire life is built on a lie while he's fighting cancer? "There's some grown-up stuff going on," I said carefully, "but nothing for you to worry about right now. Your job is to focus on getting better." He didn't buy it, but he was too tired to push. Fell asleep shortly after. I sat there watching him sleep, wondering how the hell we were going to get through this. One day at a time, I guess. One disaster at a time. The next day was the big one. They were prepping Ryan, the biological father, for the bone marrow donation. Ethan was getting pumped full of meds to prepare his system. The doctors explained everything to him in kid-friendly terms, but basically, they were wiping out his entire immune system to make room for the new cells. My heart broke watching him try to act tough when he asked if it would hurt, but I could see the fear in his eyes. The doctor assured him he'd be asleep and wouldn't feel a thing during the procedure, though he might feel crummy afterward as his body rebuilt itself. I didn't get to meet with Ryan before the procedure, probably for the best. The whole situation was awkward enough without having to make small talk with the guy who unknowingly fathered my son, because my wife is a pathological liar. Lily showed up right before they took Ethan to prep. I'd been there all night and looked like warmed over death. She, of course, looked fresh and put together, ready to play the devoted mother role. Watching him try to be brave destroyed me inside, 12 years old, and facing something most adults would crumble under. I squeezed his hand and told him he was the toughest kid I know. The last thing he asked before the pre-op meds kicked in was if I'd be there when he woke up. I promised wild horses couldn't drag me away. After they wheeled him out, I was stuck in the empty room with Lily. The silence was suffocating. She announced she was staying until he was out of recovery, fine by me. We sat in stony silence for a while before she tried asking about Ryan. I shut that down real quick, reminding her I'd been a little busy making sure our son didn't die. She tried playing the victim card, saying I was being unfair. That set me off. Nothing about this situation is fair to anyone, especially not our son. The surgery took 6 hours longest, 6 hours of my life. Lily and I sat on opposite sides of the waiting room, not speaking. Margaret tried to show up again, but got turned away at the reception desk, small victories. The surgeon finally emerged, looking tired but satisfied. Everything went well with both patients. Lily immediately asked when we could see Ethan. The doc explained he'd be in isolation for at least a week while his immune system rebuilt. We could see him through the glass, but no direct contact. A week of not being able to hug my son or comfort him. But if that's what it took to save him, I'd do it. They let us peek in on him in recovery. He looked so small, surrounded by all those machines, pale as a ghost with dark circles under his eyes. I pressed my hand against the glass like I could somehow reach him. The doctor pulled us aside to discuss post-op care. Ethan would need a sterile environment with minimal germ exposure until his immune system strengthened. I informed him I'd already started deep cleaning the house, installing new air filters, the works. The doc looked uncomfortably between me and Lily, acknowledging the complicated family situation but emphasizing Ethan would need stability and consistent care during recovery. I assured him firmly that Ethan would have everything he needed at his home with me. Lily started to protest, but the doctor shut it down, saying he didn't need to know our personal details, just that his patient would have proper care. The next few days blurred together hospital shifts, doctor meetings, and avoiding Lily as much as possible. We took different shifts at the hospital with brief, awkward handoffs, where we'd update each other on his condition. The divorce moved insanely fast. My lawyer crushed it. Got an emergency hearing scheduled thanks to Lily's nonstop lying. She tried to play victim, claiming I was ditching her during a family medical crisis, but the judge shut that down real quick after seeing the DNA results and hospital records. And after 5 days into isolation, Ryan asked to meet up at the hospital cafeteria. He looked exhausted, still bandaged from the bone marrow procedure. It was awkward small talk until he mentioned our son, and that phrase hit me hard. I corrected him instantly. He might have DNA, but that kid's strength came from me, the one who raised him. After an uncomfortable pause, Ryan admitted he didn't want to disrupt our lives further and recognized me as the real dad, brushing off biology as just DNA. The guy surprised me, honestly said he'd like to know Ethan eventually, but would follow my lead on when and how that happened. His priority was the kid's well-being, not asserting his newfound paternal rights. We agreed to table the discussion until Ethan was healthier and had processed the impending divorce. First priority was getting him through this medical crisis, the rest could wait. By day 7, the doctors were cautiously optimistic the new cells were grafting, his numbers improving slightly. They let me wear a sterile suit to sit with him for 30 minutes, first time I'd been able to touch him in a week. Kid was weak as a kitten but still managed to smile when I walked in, made some joke about me looking like an astronaut. Even sick as hell, he was trying to make me feel better. That's my boy. Throughout everything, Lily kept trying different ways to get back in my good graces, apologies, excuses, and promises to fix things. I shut it all down, only talking about Ethan's medical care. The nurses caught on quick and started scheduling our visits separately to avoid the tension. Discharge day finally arrived. When the doctor gave the all clear, I barely held it together. I made it to my car before completely breaking down, the relief and anger crashing over me. But I pulled myself together because Ethan needed me strong. Driving home, watching him rest peacefully in the back seat, I made a promise to myself no matter what happened, I'd always be his dad first. First night home, Ethan was quiet, too quiet. Kid who'd normally talk my ear off just stared at the TV, barely saying 2 words. When I was getting him settled into bed, he finally asked the question I'd been dreading. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Couldn't lie to him, told him yes, we were. He started crying, asking if it was his fault, if it was because he got sick. Broke my heart. I assured him none of this was remotely his fault, that grown-ups sometimes have problems that have nothing to do with their kids. He asked when Mom was coming home. That question sucked because I knew she wasn't, ever. Told him Mom would be staying somewhere else, but would still see him all the time. Kid fell asleep crying. I sat outside his room drinking coffee until like 3:00 a.m., feeling like the world's biggest asshole even though I hadn't done anything wrong. The bone marrow transplant was working, though thank God. His counts improved a little every day. The home health nurse came by daily to check on him and draw blood. Kid hated the needles, but was a trooper about it. Lily was allowed supervised visits 3 times a week hospital, provided a social worker to oversee them, since the court was concerned about her emotional stability and potential for parental alienation. Fancy terms for might say crazy shit to turn the kid against his dad. Those visits were awkward as hell. She'd show up with new toys, games, anything to buy his affection. Kid was happy to see her but got tired easily. Social worker was good about ending visits when she saw him fading. About 2 months after coming home, I finally had the conversation I'd been dreading telling Ethan the truth about his biological father. Had a child psychologist help prep me, and honestly, it was the toughest talk of my life. I sat him down, reassured him I'd always be his dad no matter what DNA said, then gently explained that his mom hadn't been fully honest and the guy who donated bone marrow was actually his biological father. He got upset, asked a lot of hard questions why his mom lied, if he had to call this other guy dad, or if this was why we were divorcing, but I answered the best I could without trashing his mom. We both cried, and in the end, he hugged me tight and said, "You're still my dad," which completely broke me. A few days later, he surprised me by saying he wanted to meet Ryan. And though the first meeting was awkward as hell, they bonded over Minecraft. Afterward, he had more questions, siblings, family stuff, but I assured him nothing changes our relationship. He'd always be my kid, no matter what. At the final divorce hearing, the judge gave me primary custody, the house, and most assets. Lily got standard visitation, her car, and a fair, honestly generous financial settlement. She freaked out in court, nearly got herself held in contempt, and her lawyer had to drag her out. Later, she tried to pick Ethan up from school on a day that wasn't hers, got caught, and escorted off by police, which forced the court to tighten visitation rules even more. Ryan and I separately arranged his visitation schedule, supervised by therapists, so Ethan could gradually meet his other family. Margaret eventually violated her restraining order again, got hit with community service, then moved away, telling anyone who'd listen that I ruined her family. Whatever helps her sleep, I guess. And by the 6-month mark post-diagnosis, things had settled into a new normal. Ethan was officially in remission, back at school part-time. I was working from home to be available for him. Lily had her visitation schedule that she mostly stuck to. We kept the therapy going even after he physically recovered. Best decision ever. Gave him a safe space to process everything without worrying about hurting anyone's feelings. Started dating again recently, nothing serious, just coffee here and there with a pediatric nurse I met through Ethan's hospital stays. She gets the whole complicated family situation. Ethan likes her, which matters more than anything. One night, Ethan beat me at some video game and looked nervous about my reaction. I just laughed and messed up his hair. "That's my boy," I said without thinking. The smile he gave me in return was worth everything we'd been through. So, yeah, that's where things stand now. Life turned upside down, but we survived. More than survived, found a new kind of strength I never knew we had. For those wondering, yeah, Ryan is legally recognized as the biological father now, but I maintain primary custody and all parental rights. He's cool with that arrangement, says, I earned it by being there for 12 years when he couldn't be. The one good thing that came out of this nightmare, I know who my real family is now, and I know what I'm made of.